Hello and welcome to Career Talk. I'm Lee Hopwood, CEO here at CCMA and host of this very live show where I chat to some of the amazing contact centre professionals about their career journeys so far and why do I do this? Why do I do this? Apart from the fact that I love talking to all these amazing people, they all have incredible careers in the contact centre industry and it's a real opportunity to inspire those working in and also those thinking about coming and joining us in the industry because, oh my goodness, the career opportunities are massive. Now, joining me today is the 2023 Outsourced Contact Centre Manager of the Year at the UK National Contact Centre Awards, and she is also the Senior Operations Manager at Ascensos, Kim Canning. Hello and welcome, Kim.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Lee. So nice to speak to you.
It's so lovely to have you on Career Talk. And first of all, huge congratulations on winning Outsourced Contact Centre Manager of the Year. Now, that is not going to have been easy. How does it feel?
Still really overwhelmed by the full thing, to be honest, but absolutely I was honoured to even be recognised as a finalist. I was so excited to get glammed up and go to the event, but winning the award was just total cherry on the cake. Absolutely loved it. It was a real proud career moment for me.
And I have to ask, what's happened since? What's it done for you? Being involved in the awards and then going on to win?
I think probably I'm somebody that maybe doubts myself quite often. I didn't think I needed a bit of reassurance, but after the process, after winning the award, I feel really confident in myself and the decisions that I'm making. And actually, it's probably stamped, you're doing a good job. And I didn't realise I needed that. But it was good to reflect and go through the process, even the panel interview that we went through, just having that time to pause and go, actually, what a year. We've as a team, my team support me as well. We've had a really good year, and it was just cemented by having the award on the night. So yeah, it was really good.
And you know, it's so lovely hearing you talk about it giving you more confidence. I think it's something we all suffer from, is just that little bit of confidence just in your decision making and getting your voice heard. So it's so lovely to hear that's had that kind of impact on you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, as a senior operations manager, what does that mean? What does that mean, and what does your average day, your average week look like? What is being a senior operations manager in an outsourcer?
Yeah, it's busy, but as a senior operations manager for Ascensos, so just now I have an account that's roughly about 200 people on it. It's one of our largest retail clients that we've got within Ascensos, so I have 2 operations managers reporting into me at the moment. And my job is really just to set the direction, set the focus, make sure that we're aligned to our client, and make sure that we're achieving our deliverables for our customers and for our people throughout the week, month, year. And I really work closely, I would say, with the client on a strategic level. So it's really my job to look into insight, look into what our customers are telling us to help improve customer journey, efficiencies. And one of the key things that I like to do in partnership with our clients as well is build things like continuous improvement roadmaps, so that we're really seeing that end-to-end development throughout the year.
So you're managing a team,
Mm-hmm.
You're managing within Ascensos, you're managing upwards, and you're managing expectations with clients as well. That's quite a skill set you need.
Yeah, it's definitely varied. It is definitely fast-paced, but it suits the way that I work to a T. I think that you need to have definitely a certain skill set within outsourcing, particularly just because how agile we need to be. And actually, I think I thrive under some of that pressure. So yeah, it absolutely suits me. And as well as all the client-facing stuff that we're looking at just now, I do get involved in some of our Ascensos initiatives as well around people and culture. One that we've recently shared on LinkedIn is we've our new partnership with Centrical. So I'm quite heavily involved in that. So I make sure that I'm getting that balance as being a senior operations leader within a Sensos. I've got that client hat on, and I'm making sure that I'm looking out for the business as well.
And that's really interesting, because you're therefore quite a key influencer when at the outsourcers, when you're a senior operations manager in an outsourcer, you're actually quite a key influencer around the solutions that you might bring in. And I guess also in really making sure that client, looking at it the other way, is really, really successful in what they're doing. So do you spend, about how much of your time do you think you spend with your team? How much of your time do you think you spend on those other initiatives? And how much of your time do you spend, I'm going to say, looking at reports, looking at data, looking at insights, and working out, right, these are the changes that we want to make?
I think I'm quite lucky because I've got 2 really strong operations managers that are in my team at the moment. So they're very heavily involved in the day-to-day and managing what we need to really make sure that we're delivering for our client on a daily basis. So I get quite a lot of time to think strategically and look at the insight, look at the data, spend time with the client in particular, working together. So I would definitely say the majority of my time is definitely in that space. And then obviously being around and making sure that I'm leaning in there to support the team should they need me.
No, absolutely. So you've been at Sensos for 2.5 years. You've been in outsourcing for about 7 years.
Yeah.
But prior to that, you were in insurance, I have discovered.
Yeah.
And so I have to ask you, you've been both client side in insurance and in an outsourcer. How different is it working in an outsourcing environment compared to that in-house environment? How different is it?
I would say the fundamentals are the same, the principles are the same, the culture is really aligned. You've got that, whether you're in-house or BPO, you're leading and instilling the company values, the culture, you're striving towards achieving goals, developing and nurturing your people. So that element is really similar, I would say. I'd say when you then maybe cross into the outsourcing world, I said previously, we work at pace. We absolutely work at pace, and we need to really be decisive and agile and pivot really quickly when we have in line with some of our client demands and some of the challenges that presents. But you get to wear a different hat each day, I would say, in outsourcing, when maybe typically you would have in-house a team of people looking after a particular area. I know that most of my days are looking at account management, looking at resource, looking at planning, looking at the financial, the commercial aspects of things. So you get to definitely diversify your skill set, I would say, for sure.
And that makes total sense. And it doesn't surprise me that you describe it as just a lot busier, a lot more complex, a lot more diverse in an outsourcing environment compared to in-house. And I guess that if you've got multiple accounts, then you've got different brands to work on as well. And I'm going to ask you about that in a minute. But what have you learned working in an outsourcing environment that you now wish you had known when you were working in-house?
Wow, there's probably a few things. However, the biggest focus for me and the biggest learning curve for me was probably that commercial awareness piece, just about how to make sure that we are efficient, we're optimizing what we have, and making sure that we're making decisions that don't impact customer. And yeah, I think if I knew more about the detail of that when I worked in in-house, I would have maybe done things differently. But yeah, I think even since probably moving from in-house to outsourcing, I feel like that was a lifetime ago. And I've grown up a lot as well. So I don't know if that is just with growth in my own progression, but yeah, there's definitely a few different things that are quite different.
It's interesting when you say the commercial side of things. And I guess that, when you're an outsourcer, you've got to be keeping your eye on that. You've got to be looking at actually how are you giving the best value back to your clients. In-house, you may be a little bit more focused on just getting the job done and delivering. And I think you're right. Yes, your career has grown and developed, and you're more senior now than you were 7+ years ago. So I completely get that. And when I look back at your career, I mean, you've had a lot of different roles. I said that as if you're 103, but but you've had, and it's not uncommon when I talk to people on Career Talk, and they share with me, you know, what they've done in their career. It's not uncommon for those that are the most successful have had lots of different roles. Now, you've been a sales consultant, you've been a team manager, you've been a transfer champion. What is a transfer champion?
Okay, transfer champion. So there's probably a better title for that now in the industry that we work in. I suppose in other businesses you could look at that as sort of lead generating, revenue generating, and it was a role that was generating revenue across our current customer base, and that was my role to sort of develop that and work with the areas to make sure that we're maximising on that opportunity, because it was just pure growth and pure profit. So I think this was the first role actually that I thought to myself, didn't really know a lot about it going into it. I had loads of autonomy because we were building it. It was a completely new role. It was something different that the company was doing. But I think that's probably the first stepping stone that I thought, you know what, I love this environment of building relationships, managing stakeholders, looking at insight, looking at opportunity. It gave me a taster of probably being accountable for something that I was in control of. But at the same time really had to work with a bigger and wider business to get them on board and take them on that journey. And as I said, had the autonomy to build it as I said that I wanted it to look like. And it was a really interesting part of my career, but it's definitely shaped probably and paved the way to where I am now, to be honest, because I did get a real taster for owning something and driving something and calling something my own. So yeah, I was particularly proud of that role for a good while.
And I'm going to ask you about what your biggest achievement is in a moment. I always like to ask that question. But carrying on back with your career journey, you've also worked in retentions. So having been in quite a sales-dominated environment, you moved into retentions, and you've been a recruitment consultant before becoming a deputy operations manager, and obviously where you are today. So throughout your time in insurance, what did you enjoy most on the in-house side of things, and why?
I definitely, that role of transfer champion was definitely, as I said, that paved the way to where I probably am, and I appreciated the opportunity in that space because I was a team manager. And it could have easily went in a more senior person within the business, and actually given the opportunity for me to sort of own that and drive that and build the relationships that I did throughout it really helped build my confidence and my understanding of how the bigger business and the bigger picture worked, which definitely got my cogs turning on where I wanted to take my career. So that was my favourite part of working in that environment.
Why do you think you got the role and it didn't go to someone more senior?
I had great relationships with the people that I worked with at that time, and my own manager was a real supporter of me, and could see something in me, could see that I had a passion to move forward and to do something a little bit different. And I think I've probably kept that throughout my career. I've always been super ambitious and don't hide it very well. But I'm super ambitious, and I like to think what's next. I'm always looking at what's next and always looking for the opportunity to learn. And I think she could see that really, really quickly within me at a younger age as well.
And clearly Ascensos saw it as well. So you then moved into Ascensos, into outsourcing. And since you've been in outsourcing, you were a business transformation manager for a while. So you've before becoming a senior ops manager. So I'm going to ask you the question, what has been your greatest achievement? And, what are the projects that you've been most proud of during your time in the outsourcing world?
There's quite a few different ones that I've been particularly proud of. I think the business transformation role that I was successful in, that was a different role completely from what I was used to. I was brought up in operations, and I knew that inside out, and that's where I'd obviously built my skill set. But when I went into business transformation, that then got me thinking around project management, efficiency projects, system implementation projects, and all of that sort of that world of transformation. And then I suppose I was particularly proud when I spent my time in there around one of the projects we called Grassroots at the time. And that project, the aim of that was to onboard people at pace, because we had a big ramp coming up as we usually do in outsourcing. But we were really key to understand how do we ensure that within that first 90 days of our people joining the business, we retain them and we look after them and we nurture them, because typically we do see high attrition over that sort of first 90 days. So we implemented the project Grassroots, and that was really about the senior team across the business sort of allocated a group of new starts, and they had weekly conversations to understand what was their journey like, how are they feeling, almost like a well-being check-in, just to get close to and understand how they're feeling. And although our team managers were doing a great job of that, and our operations managers were doing a great job, it gave them a different platform, and it gave our new people a voice and almost like a supporter of anything that was going on. So we came up with, there was loads that we got together weekly once we had those meetings, and we discovered that there were some really quick fixes across the business that we can implement to make sure that we were doing things a little bit better for those people in the first 90 days. And you were having people that were joining the business that had never got contact centre experience, didn't know what to expect, and sometimes we don't appreciate that almost. So it was really giving them a voice and learning from them that what could we do better to onboard them and make sure that they felt part of the team straight away. And I was particularly proud of that, because I think that just cements the most important part of a new person's journey within a business. And actually to see how invested we were in that was really, it got them really bought into our brand, into our business, and they became an advocate of that, which was just so, it was really fulfilling. It was really good to see.
You mentioned doing some quick fixes, and you talked about a couple of them there, the weekly check-ins. Was there any other quick fixes that you did that maybe those listening will go, that's a really good idea?
Do you know what? See, I think in some of the brands that I've worked with, processes can be quite clunky. The customer experience isn't always where it needs to be. And actually we learn from the voice of our people that, do you know, we're doing this to our customers, or the customers are having to experience this, and you don't get that level of insight if you don't speak to your frontline agents. And actually some of that was really empowering, because we could take that to a client and say, here's an idea, let's go fix it. So I always encourage us to really get close to our people and let them have that voice, because they know our customers inside out. And that's where you got some of that real key insight to make big process changes, which seem insignificant because it might just be one tiny process, but it makes such an impact for our people and our customers. So there was definitely that learning of how do we make sure that that's not just for our people across 0 to 90 days, that we've got a platform that our people are really comfortable in coming and talking to us about it.
And I don't want to catch you out because you're incredibly busy with everything that you're doing, but how often do you, in a senior role, get to talk to the front line? Because it must be quite hard trying to find time to do that, as well as everything else that you're doing.
No, we definitely are dedicated. So we do things like, we've implemented things like round tables within our business. Our CEO as well is really close to some of the detail on that as well, because we want to get the balance of brand versus business. So we want to make sure that both cultures are being driven at the same time and both areas have a voice. So we are really committed to that. We do other things, like if in the interim, if we don't have anything, a meeting as such, or a call as such, there's always a platform for our people to come and tell us how they feel. So what we do, things like weekly surveys, we have a particular platform that our people can tell us live how they feel, which is great and gives us loads of insight to work with. But there's definitely a few different channels that we encourage our people to talk to us through.
And it is interesting because actually in a digital world, we're all used to digital world now, and actually I guess you might get more honest feedback if people think they're typing it rather than having to tell you direct. So you've got more to work with. Do you know, you talked a moment ago about that balance between brand and the operation, and one of the things that just fascinates me is the challenge that those in outsourcing have a real brand conflict. And I'm saying it as a brand conflict. You might turn around and go, not at all. But you work for both Ascensos, so you've got your brand loyalty to Ascensos, but you also have your client brands. And you and your frontline have got to really exude the brand of the client when you're talking to customers. That strikes me as quite a hard balance. How do you find that balance, and how do you support your teams in finding that balance?
It's a great question. It's a really good question. And admittedly, it doesn't come naturally. We do need to sometimes do it by design. And that's just through making sure that you're dedicating time to spend time on building plans, building a programme of work to really make sure that people feel immersed in the brand. That could be things like making sure that the client's involved in those types of conversations, using their language, their values, their culture, what's important to them, and getting that through to our frontline people. For me, it's really important because we want them to represent our customers and really have their customer at heart at everything they do. And the closer that you get to that brand immersion and really speaking the language, they do become loyal to that brand and become an advocate of it. At the same time, we need to make sure that there's a programme of work that sort of sits separately from an Ascensos perspective. We want to make people totally understand that they've got a voice to come and speak to us about anything that we want to do from an Ascensos point of view, or any big initiatives. We do make sure that we get that balance right, and we've got that sort of, that does sit a wee bit separate. But what I would say is we're really good from an Ascensos point of view that we feel like we're an extension of the partner that we have. So our values really do align. I don't think we've never been on the same page. And that's really nice, actually. It's a really good place to be, and a really lucky place to be as well, because it doesn't often happen.
And that what I can imagine is that for the frontline in particular, I can imagine that they are fully immersed in the brands that they're working with. Yeah. And the tougher job is actually going, you actually work for Ascensos as well. Yeah. So finding that balance, I can imagine that's quite hard. And I know you do a lot around team days, and you know, and I know John drives a lot of that cultural stuff, and the Ascensos brand is a great brand as well.
And I think it's all around the coaching, development, progression of the people. That's when we can really hit home to make sure they're getting dedicated time to spend on their own self-learning. That's where we really can come in. We've got a lot of great functions within our business that support that self-learning, those next step. What does your career look like? And that's not for everybody, but for the people that are interested and want to move through the ranks sort of thing, then there's loads in place that we make sure that we're dedicated to giving our time to our people for.
You know what? From talking to you, it really strikes me that you've got a beautiful balance between looking after your people, looking after your team, giving them the voice, with your commercial awareness and the business. You talked about processes. I can see why the judges gave you gold for the outsourced contact center. It's just a beautiful balance of everything that you're doing, you know, and you've put the customers front and central, both clients and their customers. So I can see why you won. So I have to ask you, what is the best advice that you have ever received in the work environment? I hasten to add.
Best. So, do you know, a couple of years ago, a manager said to me, "Where do you like to spend your time?" And I don't think you get asked that very often, because you're just expected, or sometimes you're just in the thick of it. You just get things done because they need to get done. And you need to spend time in places that you need to spend time in. And when that person asked me, "What do you like to spend your time doing in your working environment?" it got me thinking. And her advice was, make sure that you always create capacity to spend time in the areas that give you energy, because when you're spending time in that space, then you become the best version of yourself for your team. And I'd say that to my team at least once a week. So I don't know if they're getting bored of me saying that, but I'm super passionate about it, because I think as an operations manager, senior operations manager, you can easily get sort of brought into the detail. You end up in operator mode quite a lot. But pulling yourself out of that and doing things that are creative, inspiring, I think you just bring a different energy to your team.
Have you used that advice in your personal life as well? Because you strike me. Well, you strike me as someone who's very ambitious, very driven. You enjoy your job, and when you're in that environment, you can throw yourself into your job, and then your rest of your life kind of gets pushed aside. But so do you have a good work-life balance?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, although I maybe not have articulated it that way to my husband, but we said at the start of the year, we like to go to things like gigs and music festivals. And I said to my husband, we didn't do enough of that. So let's spend the time this year doing the things that we love to do in family time. So maybe in a roundabout way, he's had that advice.
Do you know, and I am hearing more of that finding that work-life balance. I was talking to someone the other day around, it's not that long ago, 3-4 years ago, that we were all loving actually the working from home and being around our family, because nobody was going anywhere. And then we kind of came out of that, and everybody went, "Oh my goodness, I've missed gigs. I've missed going out and being around people." So that kind of came into play, and now it feels like we're in a world where actually everybody's working their socks off, because actually that's what they've got to do for whatever reason, and finding that balance is therefore really hard, but it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, big supporter of it.
Kim, this has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed getting to know you more. Now I've got some quick fire questions, although to be honest with you, they're never quick, because I'm always fascinated by the response, but I'm going to go for it. And given what you've just said about gigs, by the way, this is not a quick fire round. Who are you going to see in 2024?
So we've actually got our first one in February, and it's a country festival, Nashville at Heart or something like that it's called. So we've got that in Glasgow, so I'm looking forward to that. But there's a few on the list.
Fascinating. So do you prefer live radio or streaming music?
Streaming music, definitely.
And a supplement question to that, are you into country music?
How
cool is that?
I'm proud of it. I was going to say embarrassed by it, but no, I'm proud of it. It's great.
You should be proud of it. So who's your favourite? And I'm going to say this as if I know much about country music, but who's your favourite artist or band?
Love Chris Stapleton. I love Zach Bryan. There's a few. And now I'm getting embarrassed.
Do you know what? I love the fact that we always uncover something, and I love country music. So knowing that you like gigs, I think I know the answer to the next one. So are you a morning person or an evening person?
Right, okay, so I think the right answer to give here is a morning person. But I do like evening time with the family. I do like evening time.
But you're all right getting up in the morning.
I'm good at getting up in the morning. Need to be. Got 2 young boys in the house, so yeah, we are always an early start in here.
Oh, bless you. And I have to ask this one, given it is January. Are you on a dry January, or is it slightly damp? As in, by the way, I have discovered that there is this phrase called damp January, where you've just pulled back on drinking alcohol. Dry January, damp January, or are you still partying?
Let's say damp January. Not quite festive drinking modes, but definitely damp January.
Definitely still having a glass or two. Kim, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me today. And again, huge congratulations on your win last year. And maybe we'll see you this year at the awards.
Never know.
Who knows? Who knows? Thank you so much, Kim. And hey, if you want to listen to this session again, or if you want to listen to some of the other career talks that I've hosted over the last 12 months, then please go to ccma.org.uk/career talk and you'll find them all there. For now, we'll see you soon.